I sabotaged my wife's birth control because she refused another child, but my plan backfired. We lost twins once, and I thought she'd forgive if we tried again. When she said never, I panicked and went too far. Now my ex is gone. I've been served, and I regret everything. Help me make amends. People say you're never really ready to be a parent, but I thought we were as close as anyone could be. My name's David. I'm 32. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I've been married to my wife Lauren for 3 years, together for 7. She's a high school counselor. I'm a mid-level architect at a growing firm downtown. We've always made a good team. We split chores without drama. We do Sunday meal prep together, and we have a rule where we check in every Friday night over wine and Thai takeout. Structured, maybe, but it worked. Early on, we agreed we only wanted one child. We both liked our freedom, weekend getaways, spontaneous hikes, late-night concerts on a whim. And we were both serious about our careers. One kid felt like the sweet spot, enough to build a family without giving up the life we loved. When we found out Lauren was pregnant, it was like unlocking a new level in our life. I'd never seen her smile like she did when she held up that little stick. We laughed, cried, hugged for what felt like an hour in the kitchen. I remember thinking, this is the start of something incredible. We started planning right away, cleared out the guest room, downloaded budgeting apps. I even made a spreadsheet for stroller comparisons. Lauren bought a book called The Calm Baby and started talking to the bump like it could answer. I was nervous, sure, but mostly excited. It felt right. At our 12-week appointment, we heard the heartbeat. That tiny thump 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 filled the room, and something shifted in my chest. I could see it, Saturday mornings at the farmer's market with a stroller, teaching them how to ride a bike at Laurel Hills Park, helping with Lego projects on the living room rug. It felt real. At the 18-week scan, we brought a flash drive for the ultrasound images. Lauren wore a dress she picked out just for this, her belly already starting to show. She held my hand the whole time, both of us beaming at the monitor, until the technician frowned. Then she turned the monitor slightly. Do twins run in your family? She asked lightly. We both laughed. Nervous. Shaky. Then she paused and said, actually make that triplets. Triplets. It was like a trapdoor opened under me. I didn't hear much after that. My ears started ringing. Lauren squeezed my hand harder. I don't even remember what the doctor said. Something about high-risk pregnancy, more scans, extra supplements. I just remember nodding and pretending to listen while my thoughts spiraled. 3 babies? We'd planned for one. 1 crib, 1 car seat, 1 life. How were we supposed to multiply that by 3? On the drive home, Lauren was chatty. Nervous energy mostly. We'll figure it out, she kept saying. Maybe we'll need a minivan after all. I nodded, eyes on the road. But something inside me had cracked. I felt like I was watching the future we built, calm, balanced, structured, crumble into something chaotic and unfamiliar. I didn't say that out loud. I just smiled tightly and squeezed her hand back. But already, in the pit of my stomach, I felt it. Something was shifting, and I wasn't sure I could follow it. Lauren hit the ground running. She came home with a stack of baby-name books the next day, started a shared Google Doc titled Triplets, Game Plan, and filled it with lists, crib options, feeding schedules, which of our friends might be able to help. She was lit up in a way I hadn't seen before. Nervous, sure, but energized. I didn't feel any of that. Instead, I lay awake every night doing silent math. Diapers, daycare, formula, car seats, times 3. Our 2-bedroom townhouse was already tight with just us. My salary barely covered our half of the bills as it was. Lauren planned to go on maternity leave, but for how long? Could we even afford her to stay home at all? Every time she talked about names or nursery themes, something inside me sank. One night, I got up and sat in the living room alone, staring at the shadows on the wall. I opened my phone and searched, "Can you reduce triplet pregnancy?" I didn't even know the right words. Eventually, I found what I was looking for. Fetal reduction. I hated myself for looking, but the idea stuck. Not because I didn't want kids. I wanted to be a dad. But 3? It felt like we were barreling into a life neither of us had prepared for. I talked to my brother, Greg, a few days later. We met for beers like we always did. Cheap IPA, dim bar, Mariners game on mute. I told him everything. He didn't flinch. "You're not a monster," he said. "But don't bottle this up. If you feel this way, she deserves to know." A few days after that, I brought it up to my therapist. She said almost the same thing. "You're reacting to fear. But that doesn't make your feelings wrong. You need to have the conversation." It took me 2 weeks to gather the nerve. We were sitting on the couch. Lauren was looking at bassinets on her laptop, her legs curled under her like always. I cleared my throat. "Can we talk?" She looked up right away. "Of course. What's going on?" I stared at the wall behind her, my voice shaking. "I've been thinking about fetal reduction." The room went still. "What?" Her voice was flat. I couldn't look at her. We planned for one. And now it's 3. I'm scared, Lauren. I'm scared of what this is going to do to our lives. To us. She blinked, like she didn't understand the words. Then she set her laptop aside and stood up. You want to kill one of our babies, she said quietly. I flinched. It's not that simple. It is that simple, she snapped. This isn't a spreadsheet, David. These are our children. I tried to explain. To say I was overwhelmed, drowning, that I didn't see how we were supposed to survive this. But she just shook her head. We said we were in this together, she whispered. 1 or 3. We made a vow. She walked out of the room without another word. That night, she slept in the guest room with the door shut. And I lay in our bed alone, staring at the ceiling, knowing I'd said the one thing that couldn't be unsaid. After that night, something broke between us. We didn't fight, not really. There were no screaming matches or slammed doors. Just silence. Thick, unmoving silence that settled over the house like a fog. We still said things like the mail's on the counter, or the doctor's at 2, but that was it. Nothing real. Nothing with weight. Lauren stopped asking what I thought about baby names. She stopped sending me links to strollers or nurseries. I caught her watching parenting class videos alone in bed with headphones on, eyes red and puffy. She never looked at me when I walked past. I started staying later at work. My studio desk became my safe zone. I'd work through dinner, zoning out to CAD drafts and zoning plans. When I couldn't focus anymore, I'd scroll job boards in other cities just to fantasize about starting over. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere simple. Most nights, I slept in the spare room. I told myself it was because of her tossing and turning, but we both knew better. Every day, I grew more certain that I couldn't handle 3 kids. I'd barely been ready for one. I hadn't grown up with a big family. I didn't have visions of chaos and minivans. I wanted control. Quiet. I wanted my life to still feel like mine. 2 weeks after that first conversation, I brought it up again. I waited until she was folding baby clothes in the living room. Tiny onesies, 3 sets in pastel colors. I hated how hopeful she looked, sitting there cross-legged with her belly just starting to swell through her t-shirt. I sat on the armrest and said, I'm serious, Lauren. We need to talk again. About the reduction. She didn't look up. No, David. We already talked. I'm not doing this to be cruel, I said quietly. But we can't do this. Not without breaking. She stood slowly and turned to me, holding one of the onesies like it was proof. You're a coward, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it hit like a slap. I thought you were scared, she continued. But no, you're just running. That's not fair. It is fair, she snapped. I'm the one carrying them. I'm the one dealing with the back pain and the appointments and the nausea. I haven't run. I'm trying to save us from drowning, I said, voice tightening. No, you're trying to jump ship. That night, I opened a private tab on my laptop and searched for divorce attorneys. I didn't call anyone. I didn't email. But I bookmarked a few names and stared at them. The next day, I took a longer lunch and went to a firm across town to ask about legal options for custody in case things fell apart. On the walk back to my car, I passed a boutique baby store. In the window was a triple stroller, massive, sleek, expensive. I didn't go inside. I just stared at it for a moment, then turned and kept walking. It felt like the version of me who had dreamed about fatherhood was already gone. It was a Wednesday morning, early spring. I remember because I just cleaned pollen off the windshield and was halfway through my second coffee when Lauren left for her 24-week checkup. She didn't ask me to come. By then, we were coexisting more than living together. She had her routine. I had mine. We said goodbye like coworkers. A nod. A faint, see you later. No kiss, no contact. I spent the morning buried in permit drafts and emails. I didn't look at my phone once. She walked through the front door around noon. I was in the kitchen, microwaving leftovers, and when I turned around, she was just standing there. Her face was pale. Her eyes swollen. Lauren, I asked, dropping the fork I'd been holding. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She tried again. 2 of them, she said, and her voice cracked. I didn't understand at first. What? 2 of them are gone. It hit like a punch to the chest. I grabbed the edge of the counter to steady myself. There were no heartbeats, she said. The doctor thinks they stopped growing a week or 2 ago. It just happens sometimes. I didn't know what to say. She leaned against the doorway, her arms wrapped around her stomach like she was trying to protect what was left. It's just him now, she whispered. Just one. My first reaction was horror. Then came the guilt. And under all of that, quiet, awful, and uninvited, was relief. I hated myself for feeling it. But it was there. One child. The life we'd originally planned. The manageable version of the future. It was like the universe had done for me what I couldn't do myself. I stepped toward her. Lauren, I'm so sorry. She turned her face away from me. Are you? Yes. I reached out to touch her arm, but she pulled back. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in weeks. And what I saw in her face wasn't grief, it was something colder. Sharper. You got what you wanted, she said, voice flat. No, Lauren, I never wanted this to happen. But you thought about it, she said. You spent weeks looking for a way to make it happen. Don't think I didn't notice. The overtime. The late nights. The way you couldn't even look at me when I said their names. That's not fair, I whispered. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Fair? You were ready to erase 2 of them with a signature. Now they're gone, and I have to wonder if you're secretly glad. I didn't respond. Because what was I supposed to say? That I hadn't prayed for this, but that I felt lighter anyway? That in the very back of my mind, a voice was whispering, maybe now you'll survive this? She walked past me and went upstairs, slowly, one hand on the railing, the other resting protectively on her belly. I stayed in the kitchen, still holding the fork I never used, standing in a life that no longer looked anything like the one I thought I was building. The birth came in November, after a grueling 3rd trimester that felt like walking on eggshells. Lauren didn't smile much anymore. She moved slower, spoke less. But when our son finally arrived, a quiet, wide-eyed little boy, we both cried. For different reasons, maybe, but we cried just the same. We named him Owen. The delivery was rough. Lauren had to stay in the hospital for a few extra days for observation. I stayed by her side, sleeping in a stiff chair, helping with feedings, learning how to swaddle. She let me. She didn't push me away, but she didn't pull me close either. When we brought Owen home, the nursery was already ready. 3 cribs had become 1. The changing table was still covered in sticky notes from when we were planning for more, multiples feeding chart, rotation schedule, bottle tracker, but we never took them down. They just faded over time, like a memory you don't want to face head on. We started therapy 2 weeks later. Lauren picked the therapist. A woman named Diane with kind eyes and a neutral office that smelled like cinnamon tea. At first, we barely spoke. Just short summaries of our days and tense silences. But Diane was patient. She asked questions we didn't want to answer. Gently, relentlessly. Do you think you grieve the same thing? She asked once. Lauren looked down at her lap. I grieved my children, she said. All 3 of them. And I said, I grieved the man I thought I'd be. Some weeks were harder than others. There were setbacks. Nights when Owen wouldn't stop crying, and I caught Lauren looking at me like I was a stranger. Days when she flinched if I touched her back. But we kept going. I tried to be better. I learned how to feed him in the dark without waking her. I read to him every night, even when I was bone tired. I took paternity leave, turned down a promotion, stayed home more than I ever had before. For the first time in my adult life, I was choosing family over ambition. It scared me, but it felt right. Lauren noticed. Slowly. She didn't say much, but she started leaning against me during therapy again. She let me hold her hand during long stroller walks around the neighborhood. We even laughed once, really laughed, when Owen peed straight up in the air mid-diaper change, and we both panicked like first-time parents in a sitcom. But there was still a distance. Not a wall, exactly, but a pane of glass between us. She let me back into the bedroom. We touched again. Carefully. Lovingly, even. But in those quiet moments, I could feel something unspoken hanging in the air. It wasn't hate. It wasn't even anger. Not anymore. It was the memory of betrayal. The version of me that once wanted to erase part of our future still lingered in the room like a ghost. And even as I kissed her forehead, even as I held my son like he was the center of the universe, I knew she hadn't forgotten. Not really. She was trying. But she hadn't forgiven me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon. Owen had just turned 1. He was waddling now, unsteady but determined, like he was racing no one but himself. Lauren was on the couch watching him cruise from ottoman to bookshelf, smiling in that soft, tired way moms do. I was in the kitchen, making coffee. And for a moment, just a flicker, I let myself believe we'd made it. We were functioning. We had routines. We even had little rituals, Saturday pancakes, bedtime story swaps, slow mornings with shared silence instead of sharp words. So I said it. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe hope. Maybe delusion. Maybe just the itch to close a chapter one thought we'd nearly finished. I walked over, handed her a mug, sat beside her, and said, "You think we'll ever want to do this again? Just once more." She didn't say anything. I glanced over. Her face was still. Too still. "You mean, another baby?" she asked, voice flat. "Not now," I said quickly. "Someday. I don't know. I've loved this more than I thought I would." She nodded slowly, eyes still on Owen. "Yeah, he's perfect." There was a long pause. Then she said it, soft, but unshakable. "Not with you." I blinked. "What?" "I don't want more children," she said, turning to face me. "Not with you." The air drained out of the room. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even cold. Just honest. "I've tried to get past it," she continued. "The way you handled things. The way you shut down. The way you looked at our pregnancy like it was a mistake that needed fixing. I didn't mean." "I know what you meant," she cut in gently. "And I've worked really hard to move forward. For Owen. For me. For this house." I nodded slowly, unsure if I should say anything more. My throat felt dry. She looked back at Owen, who was now tugging on the edge of a blanket like it was a mountain to climb. "You're a good father," she said. "You show up. You care. You're trying. But, she sighed, "I can't forget who you became when everything felt hard. I can't unsee that." I leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I thought we were okay," I said quietly. "We are," she replied. "We're parenting well. We're civil. We're even affectionate sometimes. But I don't feel safe dreaming big with you anymore. That version of us is gone." There wasn't anything left to say. Not right then. I sat there while she sipped her coffee, watching the rain trail down the window pane. Owen babbled to himself on the rug, unaware of how big the room suddenly felt. I thought we'd turned a corner. I thought we were healing. But that day, sitting next to the woman I still loved, I realized that some cracks don't seal. They just hold their shape, quietly, beneath everything you try to build. I told myself it came from love. That was the first lie. The second was that she'd understand, eventually. That once she saw the positive test, once the reality kicked in, she'd soften. We'd hold hands again. We'd be partners again. But deep down, I knew what I was doing. Lauren had a little pill organizer tucked in the bathroom drawer, Monday through Sunday, color-coded, right next to her vitamins. She never missed a dose. She was meticulous. Controlled. I waited until the house was quiet one morning. Owen was at daycare. Lauren was at the grocery store. I opened the drawer with shaking hands and swapped out 2 of the active pills with blank substitutes I found online. Harmless-looking sugar capsules that cost me less than $12. I told myself it was temporary. Just a nudge. A push in the direction I believed we needed to go. I didn't feel good afterward. I didn't feel anything, really. Just a dull weight in my chest that stayed there for the next week. Lauren noticed something was off before I did. She looked at the pills one evening and frowned. "Did these get wet?" she asked, holding one up to the light. I shrugged. No idea. She didn't press. A few days later, she got quiet again. Not angry. Not even suspicious. Just observant. Then, one morning, she came home from running errands earlier than expected. Her face was pale, eyes like steel. "Did you do something to my birth control?" I blinked. "What?" "Don't lie to me, David." She was holding a paper bag from the pharmacy. I could see the information slip stapled to the side. My stomach dropped. I started, but there was no version of this that sounded sane. "You tampered with it?" she asked, voice trembling now. "Are you actually saying that out loud?" I couldn't deny it. I didn't even try. She backed away from me like I was something toxic. "That's not just a lie. That's reproductive violation." I winced. "Lauren, I didn't mean it that way. I thought maybe if we had one more, if it just happened, we'd find our way back." "To what?" she snapped. "To trust? You violated me. I thought you'd come around," I whispered, shame boiling in my chest. "I thought." "No," she cut in, voice cracking. "You thought you could control me, just like you tried to control everything else." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at me like she'd never really known me. Like I was something foreign. Dangerous. "I don't know what kind of man does something like this," she said, shaking her head. "But I'm not staying to find out." She walked upstairs and shut the door. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. The next morning, the house was silent except for Owen's chatter from his crib. Lauren packed a bag. Took him with her. She didn't slam the door. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't have to. The damage was done. The divorce papers came the next day. They were hand-delivered, no warning. Just a knock at the door and a stranger with a clipboard asking for my signature. I didn't even open the envelope for hours. Just stared at it on the coffee table like it might explode. When I finally read it, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just felt empty. I texted her. "Please. Let's talk. Just us." No response. I emailed. Long, rambling letters trying to explain, to apologize, to make her see that I was broken, not malicious. That I'd lost sight of the line between desperation and betrayal. Nothing. I tried again the next day. Then again. Dozens of messages, all left unread. I left a voicemail. My voice cracked halfway through. I told her I was sorry. That I understood. That I'd do anything to make things right. Still nothing. I went to therapy and said the words out loud. I tampered with her body. I violated her trust. The therapist didn't recoil. She just nodded slowly and said, "That's the first honest thing you've said since you walked in here." My friends found out. At first, I told myself I'd keep it quiet, but the truth has a way of leaking out. One by one, the people in my life distanced themselves. Greg stopped returning my calls. My coworker Brian pulled me aside and said, "I'm not judging you, but I can't have you around my wife right now." Even my parents, who I expected would at least try to understand, looked at me like I was some stranger from the news. "What were you thinking?" my mom whispered when I told her. That she wouldn't notice? That it would all work out? "I wasn't thinking," I said. "I was just afraid she was gone." She didn't respond. She just stood and left. My dad followed, without a word. Days passed. Then weeks. The apartment got quieter. Owen's toys stayed in their basket. His clothes stayed folded in the nursery drawer. His crib, once the centerpiece of that room, sat untouched. I wasn't allowed to see him. Lauren's lawyer made it clear, supervised visits only, and only after court-mandated counseling. It was legal. It was fair. It still broke me. One night, I found a letter on the doorstep. No postage. No return address. It was from Lauren. I read it at the kitchen table. Twice. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't emotional. It was deliberate. Precise. Every word chosen with care. She said she still felt hollow when she thought about what I did. That she believed in forgiveness, but not at the cost of safety. That she was choosing peace over pretending. She wrote, "I will never teach our son to hate you, but I will teach him to protect his boundaries." Because I couldn't protect mine. I sat there for a long time after that. The apartment felt like a shell. I tried to salvage something sacred by breaking it further. And now, I was left with nothing but the echo of my own decisions. I folded the letter carefully, put it in a drawer, and turned out the lights. I moved out 2 weeks later. The apartment, once full of noise, bottles clinking, diaper bags rustling, Owen's giggles echoing off the walls, was now just boxes and bear hooks. I left the nursery untouched. Lauren didn't ask me to take anything from it. I found a studio on the east side. Tiny, cracked walls, no washer-dryer. The kind of place I used to mock when I was younger. But it felt honest, in a way. Like punishment, maybe. Or maybe just a place where no one expected anything from me. I took a sabbatical from work. The firm was gracious about it, more than I deserved. My boss said, "Take time. We'll be here if you come back." I didn't ask if he really meant it. I started therapy again. Weekly. No skipping. No excuses. The first few sessions were just me talking in circles. Defending myself. Regretting. Apologizing to no one in particular. But eventually, the layers peeled back. I talked about control. About fear. About how the minute we heard triplets, I stopped seeing a family and started seeing a threat. I admitted things I hadn't even told myself. That I measured love by how manageable it felt. That I confused planning with protection. That I was so terrified of chaos, I tried to bend the world around me into something safe. And in doing that, I broke the very thing I claimed to love. Lauren let me see Owen, once a week, supervised. Usually at a quiet park near her new apartment. She'd sit on a bench nearby while I rolled a ball back and forth or read to him under a tree. He didn't call me dad, yet. But he didn't cry when I held him. That was something. One visit, he toddled up to me with a crumpled leaf and handed it over like a treasure. I thanked him and felt something ache in my chest. Not just guilt. Not just shame. Hope. I started journaling. Every day, no matter what. Some days I wrote pages. Others, just a sentence. But it helped. It made the noise in my head feel less permanent. Eventually, I wrote her a letter. Not to win her back. Not to beg. Just a letter. I told her I understood now. That I had no right to ask for anything but the chance to be better. That I wasn't the man she married anymore. And maybe that was a good thing. I never sent it. It sits folded in the back of my journal. A quiet offering to a version of her that may never read it. Some nights I still reach for my phone, like I'm going to call her. Like I'm going to ask how Owen slept or what book he's into now. But I stop myself. Not because I don't care. Because I finally understand what boundaries mean. Redemption, I've learned, isn't a reward. It's a process. And sometimes it doesn't come with reconciliation. Sometimes it's just learning how to live with yourself, even when the person you were is someone you can't take back.